Yeah, and then I guess this is the principle that I want to drive home is that there will come a time though when you have to score keep for whatever reason. Like I need a grade below a 70%. I got to keep that in mind. Like I can't go below that. And then Shayna's talking about not getting down on herself because she did. Well, I have a deadline. I have a paper to write that's due Thursday, so I can't do that. I can't just be
Yeah,
like, well, we'll see if I get
but
it
you
done.
can not score keep about not getting 100.
Oh no, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of practice that applies. Exactly. So
Yeah,
so my
we're all
point
different. Yeah, we're all different. Like we
and
all
the
have different schedules. We all have different things we're doing. So yeah, it's just adapting to your own things that are going on into your own life.
right. And the practice and the principles underline all of it no matter what. So whether, you do have to do something and you do have to you focus on something that maybe isn't something that you would prefer to focus on, like you, anything really. And then that's when the practice, it's just you go back to your basics. Where are my four directions while I'm doing this? While I'm doing this paper, while I'm writing this thing, while I'm doing this research that I'm not terribly interested in, don't know why I'm doing it. The teacher's stupid, the class is stupid, I hate it. And those
Sure. And
thoughts
in
can start
those
to come up.
circumstances, your practice has to be impeccable.
Yes.
And in other circumstances, you can be looser in your adaptation and response. It can be without worrying that you're not getting done what you need to get done.
And
So
but what's the
it's a yin yang thing that gets narrowly focused and broadly focused
right,
depending on where you're at. Yeah.
right. And then what would be the warrior principle in both of those scenarios? The scenario where it is really loosey-goosey and I have more time today and I'm on vacation for 3 weeks and Kobe's here and we can relax and I got to get this done. What's the warrior principle that binds them both? Do you remember? I mean, it's not like a test, but there's a particular principle that if I maintain, it doesn't matter what the situation is, whether I'm on vacation or whether I'm at, you know, it's my 10th day of work, or, I have 3 weeks off versus I have comprehensive exams in a week. Ultimately, the same warrior principle applies. And it's the controlled abandon, the mood of the warrior, as Don Juan would put it. I can have that controlled abandon by doing my practice, by doing my four directions, by redirecting back to my four directions, either abruptly with rapid redirections, because it's repetitive, habitual, and not making me feel well, or I just got to gently redirect because I'm starting to notice that, I'm going away from the practice a little bit and the degrees between the two. But if I do the practice, I will always come back to a place where it's like Andy Dufresne walk. Okay, so right now, so remember, there's times where he's just literally, they don't show it in the movie because it'd be a really boring movie, but there's hours, endless hours of digging in that tunnel, a very arduous activity that is repetitive, that isn't very fun. But if it's done in this with this warrior principle, and we're going to do it with controlled abandon. And a lot of the scenarios that we've been discussing, there was no controlled abandon, which makes sense, because the controlled abandon is a principle that is accessible when the four directions are active, when the mind is more under direct volition, if that makes sense.
Because my controlled abandon is all the other things that I'm doing in the morning that I'm just doing, which doesn't lead me time to have the exercise that I have intention to do. So I would say that's probably the part that is being left out is I have only so much time in the day. So I have to use controlled abandon to do all the other things that I need to get done. And sometimes I don't get everything done and that's okay. And so that's where my controlled abandon is at.
Yep,
Yeah, it's the aperture of the just do is different, but the mood of the warrior exists through.
is the same. Right. That's it. Yeah. All of the different, like Shayna was saying, we all have different lives and, we all have different things. And whether we get everything done or don't get everything done, where was the intention? Where was the energy? Did I act with my four directions? Was there, in his words, impeccability? Did I do my best? That makes a big difference. Did I not? And if I didn't do my best, that's okay too. It's all just a learn, grow, and evolve experience. And, we can understand that there's obvious cause and effect. So, maybe I don't do the things that I need to do. There's going to be a consequence for that. And assuming full responsibility for your actions is another warrior principle. So I can't go wrong. I just assume full responsibility for what I've done. In this case, not study, didn't get a very good grade, didn't get a good, score on my paper, didn't get the paper done, but I'm like, I chose to do that. So with controlled abandon, I continue. And so the warrior principles are airtight and they really bring the practice back, to a very solid state. But to Donna's earlier point, it's not it can't be structured to a T. Like that not because it's an embodiment practice. So it just kind of it can't be rigid. No, you can have, like I said, I have my techniques. That you do need to have your techniques, and it does need to be selective attention. Those are two requirements for it to be the practice, but it doesn't have to be rigid. Doing a trick of attention that is mine and my style, and if you try to force yourself to do something my way, that would be very rigid. That wouldn't be my recommendation. My recommendation would be maybe take the kernel, the principles of what I'm doing in my situation, like Shayna's situation, and with running and doing things, exercise, and still trying to balance all of the different things that need to be done in a day. Take that controlled abandon and let that be the underlying principle. And how do we get back to it? That's the practice, the four directions. And then we have well, I think the best way to talk about them are the traps of thinking, comparing and contrasting, trying to figure things out, psychological time. That's a big one, especially like with students. They just can't, they get senioritis. My goal is to not have that because this is an important time for me. And one of the techniques is that I like in the cognition direction is to imagine 3 points of time at once. And we've talked about it, and that's a little bit tricky, and we don't have time to go into the substance of that. But I do it with school. There's going to come a time where I look back on my school years and I'm like, that's a fond time for me. It was hard and I intended and willed and I had a lot of controlled abandon and there was times where I didn't and I was taking things too seriously and I was getting too tightly wound. So I learned a lot. But I don't want to get to this point in the next term where I'm just like, I got to get this over with. I can't wait to get done because that psychological time is now saturating your bubble of perception. Is there anything wrong with psychological time? No. We've talked about this. Everything Donna was talking about, everything Shayna and Ida were talking about, ultimately, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just when it gets out of harmony in our bubble of perception, when we allow it to get out of harmony, when it has the tendency to go towards disharmony. I have my own tendencies. Donna and Shayna and Ida and Lisa, we all have our own tendencies. Some of them may be similar, so we can talk about them and we can say, oh, me too. And, that's a match point and cool. Now we can talk about it a little bit together and communicate, but there's going to be times where nobody in this room gets it. For whatever reason, that's always going to be a possibility. And so that's why principles are so essential because the principles will underline all of the unique situations. Like that quality underlies every moment that we're in. It is an aspect of our bubble of perception just waiting to be discovered and observed. That's a fundamental principle. So we can balance with some of these principles and we can use them to evaluate. And it makes the evaluation easier. Repetitive habitual not making me feel well. I don't need to go into all of this long, should I be, and this should sound like super 19 or 2017, 2018. I don't need to go into all the evaluation about this thought because is it repetitive? Is it habitual? Is it not making me feel well? For Donna, she doesn't need to go into where's the quality? Oh, I'm going back to my practice. I have to even ask myself the question back to my practice. And the practice is going to be highly specific to wherever you said back to my practice. because it's going to be specific to the things around you, that the lowest hanging fruit at that moment may be all that you can grab onto because of the stimuli. But the examples that Shayna gave, the examples that Ida gave and Donna gave, we can find these underlying principles. Am I assuming responsibility? I have to assume responsibility for going to school. I have to assume responsibility for wanting to do an impeccable act of intent and will. And sometimes I forget that and I start to take things too seriously. And I'm like, well, no, no, wait a second. This is just an act of intention and will. Why? To build personal power. Why? So that I can focus on that personal power and it will grow in my experience. Why? Because it's a sure path to quality. Not the only path to quality, but it's a sure one. So there are others. And I plan to use many paths because I want many paths to quality, not just one. But the path away from quality is losing my four directions, where I don't know where my mind is, and I don't know where my body is in space and time, and I don't know my emotional state, and I don't know the principle that applies most to the moment. So for me, it's controlled abandon. It's like, do I feel that? And if the answer is no, then I'm slacking. Like I must, in Ida's words, I must be slacking on one thing, my practice. That's the only thing I don't ever want to slack on. And when I do, I, um, in a very non-leaking power sort of way, and sometimes it sounds like Donna's inner guru. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like the Bugs Bunny, that's a very Donna thing, but I feel that. Like I understand exactly what she's saying when that happens. It's like, what the hell? Like how did I go down that rabbit hole of all rabbit holes? And as I'm sitting here typing like this stupid person, and why are you thinking this stupid stuff? And I'm like, wait a second. Every time I comment, I'm just like boosting these people, and like their ultimate goal is just to get me to comment.
Right. And you just got to stop, shake it
And you just
off.
got to stop and shake
Yeah,
your
yeah,
head. And
yeah,
that
yeah.
might be after
Yeah.
you've already sent, 13 messages and you're in the midst of it. That's life. That's nobody here is Buddha that I can tell. So, that's the practice. Where is my mind? Are these thoughts serving me? If not, change it. Is this thought repetitive? Is it habitual? Is it not making me feel well? I'm sure Ida, if she like took the time to write down her four directions and where she likes to spend most of her time in those four directions, it would be awesome. Like it would probably be super darn interesting. Same with Shayna. She has a lot of different things that she's doing throughout the day that Donna would never even have to approach because you're living two different lives, right? So Shayna takes care of Neo and he has these sores on his body. And, so that's a type of moment where she's learned to adapt. She's learned to have that underlying just do energy because it's got to get done. And she wants the feeling of seeing her dog, happy and clean and, you know, but there's going to come a time where we have to face the warrior principle because his time for yin and yang to separate will occur. And that's not going to feel good and that's not going to be something that we desire, but we're going to have to find that quality because it's still there. Even in that moment, it's still there.